business of you stop being a teacher. You have a difference between yourself and a teacher. Maybe that's a new age concept, but in times gone by, it was always a teacher was always a teacher. In a sense, you always saw the person as a teacher. And there were certain kinds of behavior that a teacher could not engage in because she's a teacher, right? So you couldn't leave your house on a Sunday in a shorts or something because somebody was going to see you and somebody's going to see you and say, as a teacher, and that's not how teachers dress, right? And teachers, there was so the difference between the individual and the teacher, I think it's because I don't know, something with the new age, people are more interested in individualistic values are something that we have taken on now, so that I think that is where that comes from. That's my opinion. No, on the matter of, I don't know what the other matter was. Yes, age. age, and how you respond to teachers who are of a certain age and so on. When I just started working here, or wherever, when I teach adults, I never say, my name is Miss whatever. When I teach adults, I always give my name, and they can choose to call me what they want. But I don't say, don't call me that, or don't call me that. But after working here for a little while, I realized that students had this very miss mentality, which I didn't really understand at first, but eventually I did, because this particular environment, even though we live in a formal country, this particular environment seems to have some more formality attached to it than others that I had worked in. So the business of age, just when I walked up to the microphone, Kimberly said, "Miss McCarthy, sit down." I didn't feel any way about it. But I wonder if Kimberly would say that to somebody who was older or somebody who she wasn't so familiar with. I don't know. No, she wouldn't. Right? She wouldn't. I don't know. So, I mean, personally, I didn't take offense. I didn't feel any way about it. But I suppose the place that age has in definition of boundaries is really important, because now we have a lot of younger people starting their professions much earlier. Right? So when I come to teach and I say, oh, she can't teach me. You understand? How does that kind of age thing dictate the boundaries? And how do you, on the other side now, when they come with certain things, how do you not realize that it's not disrespect, really? It's just because you're young. It's just who you are. And sometimes I say, please don't take my youth I always don't take advantage of me because I'm young. I sometimes say that. Don't take advantage of me because I'm young. Yeah.
I'm anxious to speak to that. I remember when I just started this teaching business. This is my 7th year. And what used to happen is when I get to the front of the class, students used to say, oh, the teacher sent she, teacher now come. Yeah, that's what they used to say. Because in their minds, they're looking at a child. And I'm not offended that people think I'm a child. But when I open my mouth, it is something else. My voice is a lot bigger than they ever thought it would be. And then they say, no, sir, I teacher. Jesus, have mercy, I teacher. And automatically, everybody perks up. And everybody is ready to listen to what I have to say. Over time, they tell their friends, no, she's not a student. You know, she looks like a student, but she's a teacher. Hi, miss. And I greet everybody and I move on. So, how do I answer this question? You have to determine, in a very significant way, how the students will relate to you. Because I've taught persons who are in the age group of my parents, and I'm the last of 4 adult children. You understand? So my parents are big people. And I've taught persons who could be, and I relate to them in a way that suggests, I respect you. Okay. I respect you, and I see a figure of a parent in you, but you have come to me for something that you need that I have. So how are we going to approach this? That is how I treat the exchange, the interaction. And I do the same thing with anybody, irrespective of the age. I'm never disrespectful. But I've had to ask people to check themselves every now and again. Yeah. Because a lot of times people misunderstand because you're young and you're hip and, yo, Miss Ray. And I'm like, I'm not your Facebook friend. How about you start that again?
And I can tell you, students, this is for teachers though, those of us who are planning to go into profession, students have greater respect for you when you allow them to have a good working relationship with you, but establish your boundaries, because they will know that there are certain things that they cannot say to you, or not that they can't, they respectfully would not say to you, and they learn better from you.
Of course.
They respect you, and they know that they can probably run a joke with you. And you won't be offended.
They know you'll take
Good.
it in good faith.
But they also know that there's a limit.
Of course.
That they can't do. I think we have 4 minutes.
I would just like to add to, well, coming off of what Ms. Simon said, when she goes to classrooms and there are certain persons in the classroom, it had me thinking, is there another form of relationship that supersedes the teacher-student relationship? Because I remember, well, last semester when I was teaching Con Ed, I walked in for the first day and there were like 2 blue IDs just staring at me. I mean, literally, they were perched here, and I was like, wow. What am I going to say? Like, suddenly I was no longer the authority in the room. Having spent 4 years here as a student, now the tables were turned, and I could not, at the time, put myself in the reverse. I was like, wow, I used to call these people for help, like, for 4 years. And something happened mentally to me. And it took me a while to get out of that relationship. At the end of the course, it was discovered that in their minds they were saying, Lord Jesus and PBs, may they ever root in a student? When I they ever catch up? Because less to the grade looks fishy at the end of the semester.
Okay.
Everybody starts to check themselves, but
That's
it is
why.
quite unfortunate if you use those things to determine the grade of the student. It is most unfortunate.
Mr. Wade.
As quickly as possible, I have listened to a lot of the information that has been thrown around, and there are some things that are just going through my head as it relates to perspective. And perspective needs to be established in every situation that there is. If you ever see me in my classroom, you'd not think that I am the age that I am. Yet still none of my students ever even think, because of the relationship that has been established and the boundaries without saying, because I never set boundaries. I establish boundaries only as it relates to group work, because I don't believe in giving students free grade if they do no work. But my students will tell you outside of that, based on how we interact, is how you know. You know you're supposed to do your work. You know that I just like to give love, so don't force me to give you a 0. Do what you need to do, and that will happen. Now, perspective is important for all of us to establish. For example, as a young father, I would never want to ever think that I'm ever in a position, whether I can or can't, where I will say to my son, I can't do this. You're at that stage now where that's not the norm. But that's your process, and that's fine. If a student says to me, Mr. Wade, with all due respect, my perspective on that is that he wants to say something that disagrees with a position. He or she wants to say something that disagrees with a position and is establishing that, listen, I respect you, but this particular point that you have made, I have a difference, and I don't want you to take it personal. That's what I see with that. And so it comes, and we have a dialogue according to it, and there's no negative connotation to it any at all. People are very, very sensitive, especially when they have a DR behind their name. If you ever have a contrary opinion, excuse me, they don't even hear what you're saying and realize it's legitimate. The fact that you have a contrary view to a doctor, are you nuts? So it's perspective. And so when that, I don't see that as negative. As for the youth, I believe in authority and submission, and once the person has the position of authority, if they're 10 and they go up to sing or to give a message or whatever, they are in a position of authority. And the fact that I'm 50, 40, 30, 20 is irrelevant. I am on this side, the authority is there, and that must be respected, if not for anything else, for the fact that that person is holding that position at that time. And that's just how we have to see things, on a principle basis, and the principle doesn't change because of who is delivering. The principle remains consistent in everything we do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wade. Such a nice note to culminate on. You know, as a moderator, boy, you have some privileges, you see. That, you know, I just want to clarify something. I have a son who came to this university. His name is Sefton Brown. And when he started this university, I knew that I had a responsibility to pay his rent for 4 years, and probably 5 if it gets there. But when he got married, now 34 years old, When he got married and went to live in Atlanta, not one day he could call me and say, Daddy, you need to pay me rent for another 4 years. No way. So when I'm talking about things that they are not expected, I'm talking about things like those. Right. Oh, you have a question. Afterwards, I'm going to take a
This is directed to Miss Ralna Simmons or Miss Wilson. Students, we understand that we're supposed to respect our lecturers, but take into consideration a student knew a particular lecturer before he or she came to the institution. How do you help that student to transition to, say, for example, I knew Miss McCarthy before, and I'm accustomed to saying Kerry K, but you know, at school, you can't say Kerry K, so how would you help that student to make that transition from Kerry K to Miss McCarthy?
If I could go, I would simply say where we are at the time determines how we can talk to each other. I do not want the persons who do not have the kind of friendship that you and I have to think that we're all on the same page. So when I'm at work, when we are at work, Miss. When we're outside of work parameters, then we can go back to the first name thing. Because you know what, if I don't protect you like that, before long you and I will not be friends anymore. It is going to cause a problem, and who knows, it might become such a big issue that I could even lose my job. I may be accused of fraternizing and all kinds of crazy things. So I need to tell you from up front, all right, Sistrin, we're stick as thieves and tie like bag elastic and all these things. But you see, when I work, I'm going to need you to say this. You understand? And even if you feel excited and you want to hail me and call out the first name, just remember to tack on the miss real quick. You understand? Let us just move with peace and then we can link up afterwards. I don't think that's a problem, and I believe if that is something that more persons would practice, we maybe wouldn't even need to have a discussion like this. Okay. And just to quickly say something in relation to what Mr. Wade said, when we preface things, in my own estimation, when we preface things by saying with all due respect, many times when we say it, we are about to be disrespectful. So there is no deep motive of being truthful and honorable. Me know me I got this, yo. But what? I don't want you to flip on me. So here we are, with all due respect.
Yeah.
You know? But again, if you and I know the kind of relationship we have, do you even need to say to me with all due respect? Exactly. I know you, you know me. You don't agree with something I have to say. You know, miss, so and so and so. This is how I look at it. Yeah. And then I open the floor for discussion. Miss, how you feel? What do you think about it? I know this is your position. This is what you've expressed. But this is what I think. How you feel about that? And I honestly think if we know each other, we don't have to preface with all due respect. And if we're honest, a lot of the times when we say it, we are really intent on being rude.
Planning to be disrespectful.
We're planning to be disrespectful. Yeah.
All right. We have actually gone over time. And I'm going to ask the panelists, I'm going to give the panelists just a minute each, just to give their closing comments.
All right, I can take half a minute. We as individuals, all of us have the autonomy, we have the power to set limits. Limits are important to preserve respect and individuality. Once I am not saying anything that is out of the ordinary, I'm asking you to surrender your soul to make me happy. I'm simply saying, don't make me feel less of a person every time you are in my presence. I will respect you, you will respect me. Let's do something great together.
All right. Student-lecturer communication relationship is very important, and we all pay our money here to come here, but then again, we learn that we pay our money to come here, but we don't actually see where it's practical that we challenge our grades because we pay our money. So we actually talk to a teacher, miss, I pay my money to come here, and then the teacher get all defensive. And it's like, it's just in theory, it's not practical. So it's very important that we communicate and come on a level of understanding and help out each other while we travel the journey here.
In my generation, no one had to tell me what was right and wrong in a teacher-student relationship. However, in this generation, I find that it is mandatory. The first day of any class should be set aside for establishing what the relationship is between a teacher and a student, because nowadays generation, no one should appear so. So if it is a situation whereby you are going to having, for me, the generation I grew up in, I expect everybody to be adults at this time. Socialization would have already taken care of you knowing what to do and what not to do. So I don't expect to be telling you, but if you step out, you're going to know you step out.
And for me, in closing, I believe that once you enter a tertiary institution, you have passed the stage of a high school student and you are now either a young adult, a middle-aged adult, or an old adult. This stage of your development calls for maturity. You will now be mature in how you approach your life in the institution, which will, in most cases, dictate how you spend your life outside in the corporate world. Joel Jump, you will permit me to call his name. He was one of my very good resident advisors at Cedar Hall. Now, when Joel is on the dorm, my name for him is Joey. Now, Joel Jump is my pastor at Kencott Seventh-day Adventist Church. So when I go to church, I call him Pastor Jump. But as soon as he steps in my car and we are driving out, Joy. Ladies and gentlemen, adulthood comes with responsibility, and maturity dictates how you demonstrate your responsibility. Thank you so much for coming to this forum, and we trust that we have all learned something, and we look forward to the next one.